Congratulations, Mr. Deluise. That was so insightful and comprehensive analysis of games. I will never play a game without thinking of you in the future. I'm very confident about that. I'm curious because in addition to all that you presented, we know as parents and teachers that there's an issue out there, a kind of a sentiment where, you know, games can be addictive, games can be very violent. It's a hot topic in society today, and I'm curious, as an adolescent who now has demonstrated a comprehensive understanding of games and the psychology behind games, what are your feelings on that widespread concern out in society whereby we play too much games or there's violence out there? I'm curious what you think as adolescents on that topic.
Well, I guess there is kind of a boundary between whether a game is either too violent or if there's too much adult content. And I guess for some families it might be different. I guess always look at the maturity rating on that one.
Nice. And a second question, when you showed us the slide for the Go game, Go, there were the hieroglyphics, I believe, on the side. And I'm wondering, keep going.
Here it is.
Not Go, sorry, Senate. I meant to say Senate.
Well, it took me all that time.
And I see those are hieroglyphs, and I see the word Go. Is that why it's called Go? Like if you turn this way, kind of looks like a G-O.
Wait, where?
Yeah. It looks like G-O. But now I realize this is Senate, so I've mixed up.
It's a crossover episode.
I've crossed over the two games, the ancient games. So that is not a valid question.
That's fine.
Let me pass it over to Edward.
Hi, great presentation, Jake.
Thank you.
Wonderful to see this. So I have a question about your playtesting of the game.
Right, yes.
So throughout the year, we talked about the 4 C's and how you change the 4 C's to create the best game experience. So I'm wondering if you can talk a little bit about playtesting your game and how changing the different C's changed the experience and how you found the fun in that. Things like, I changed this C and the game fell apart in this way, or suddenly it got really fun in a surprising way when I changed this C. I'd love to hear more about that.
All right. I need to think about that. So for that 2.5-hour play session, we did try out a lot of different variations in addition to like diagonal movement, and, like moving with the ball more, moving with the ball less, more movement, and we did have we had a variety of results. Some of them were chaotic and terrible, as quoted by himself. I forget exactly what happened with a lot of the small variations, but I think it really came down to more choice and more change was like the main kind of variable that we affected. And like having to roll the dice to make an action card work allowed you to be you had to be more careful about it. And so that kind of changed a lot among other variables. Is that fine? Is that a good answer to your question?
Yeah, that's great. So giving the player more agency seemed to make it more fun.
Yes.
And controlling how much chance gave. How do you think giving more or controlling the chance affected it?
Right. Controlling the chance, I guess, it makes it more. Obviously, it makes it more luck-based. Put me on the spot here.
It's question period.
Right. Yes. It makes it more child friendly. So you really don't need to consider all these kinds of options. You can really just kind of come to maybe 3 different options, and which one you want to go out of those 3 instead of just a billion options. You have to choose one of them. So I guess it makes it more. It's easier to play, but it's also harder to get better. That's what I'm looking for.
Cool. So I have one other question.
Yes.
Put you on the spot again. So early in the talk, you said how games, like stories, can have a moral, can have a narrative. What do you think the moral of Go is?
The moral of Go. I like where you're going with this. Well, as you can see, that's quite a large word. I guess the moral of Go is I think the Egyptians used this to plan for warfare. They really probably don't know. I guess the moral behind Go is really, it just comes down to like strategy and teaching how like every, I guess, kind of action will have an equal and opposite reaction. And how every move could lead to like a cascade of other events, either like working for or against you. Oops.
All right, thank you.
All right. I'm trying to make complete sentences, but they're all turning into fragments.
Mr. Deluise, I have a question
Yes.
for you.
Absolutely, lay it on me.
So, the first time that Vigo played cribbage against his dad,
Did he lose?
skunked his dad.
Oh.
No. Across the skunk
The
line.
man's right
So,
now.
there's a big question in our house whether cribbage is a game of chance or not. So, what's your take on
All
that?
right. I've played cribbage little, but I once beat my grandfather. Once, all right? And he's
Only
actually
once.
quite good at the game. And so I guess I would say it's a game that it has let's say a medium depth for now. So not as much as Go or Senate, but not as little as like, I don't know, Snakes and Ladders or like Monopoly. So around that.
Okay, so we are going to turn over to questions from the floor. Please
Good
speak
idea.
into the silver mic and stand up and address them
Stressful.
by their last name.
Great job, Mr. Deluise. I
Thank
was
you.
just wondering what your favorite video game is and
That's
why.
a really hard question because I play a lot of different games. Okay, can we bring it down to two? Fortnite and Rocket League. Rocket League's a game about playing soccer with cars, and Fortnite is 100 players on an island, and you have to be the last one standing. It's violent, but it's animated, so it's fine.
Good job, Mr. Deluise.
Thank you.
I have a question that relates to Rosie's. What is your favorite genre of games, like video games, board games, card games, or imagination games?
All these questions are like building and hardness to answer. I like video games because I feel like there's like I guess it's more visual. It's easier to see what's like everything is going on, and I guess it's less static. Like board games, there's a lot of like pieces lying on the board, and like in video games, there's a lot more action going on. But I like them both for different reasons, different pros and cons. If that answers your question. All right.
Excellent job, Mr. Deluise.
Thank you.
I wanted to ask you, you mentioned attention spans have dropped.
Yes.
And I'm wondering if you think that by playing board games, we can improve attention
Right.
span.
These questions are so hard now. I actually, now considering it, I feel like the board games could increase your attention span, but we've kind of, as a society, have kind of turned more to video games because I guess they're more exciting, they're more kind of like action-packed, with shooter games especially. So I guess maybe if our society started playing board games more like cribbage, that could kind of, kind of heighten that number again back up to, I don't know, 9 seconds or so. From 8 seconds. Go ahead.
Mr. Deluise, that was a great presentation.
Thank you.
First of all, this is kind of a shallow question, but what do you think the moral is of Fortnite? And then my next question is, do you think that by playing games like Fortnite, do you think that the benefits of getting hand-eye coordination and strategy in those types of games outweighs the drawbacks of spending time on your screens instead of going outside and...
Right. I'll first answer the moral of Fortnite. Should I answer this seriously or as a joke? All right. First, I'll do the serious answer. I think the moral to Fortnite is in actuality, is to say there's always a bigger fish, right? That was a joke. That wasn't actually the joke. The moral of Fortnite is to say this is a hard question, even though it's shallow. What do you guys think the moral of Fortnite is? Like, just, is this allowed? Can I take questions? Like, yeah, Josh? Okay, so I guess actually I like that. When it comes to building, which is an aspect of the game, you can make all kinds of cool structures to defend yourself. So I guess it really lends itself to creativity. Now, what was your other question, Lucas?
It was, do you think that the qualities that you would
Right.
by playing those games
True.
strategy and stuff outweigh?
Right, so about like hand-eye coordination outweighing the kind of the drawbacks of being on screens a lot. I feel like if you want to build hand-eye coordination, I think sports is a better way to go, because like playing basketball or something, or like soccer, it's foot-eye coordination, but still. But I guess video games do have their own aspects. And like it's like ways to build your hand-eye coordination, but not as well as sports do. Connor?
Excellent job, Mr. Deluise. I'm glad you brought up sports because that's kind of where my question is going. You talked about a bunch of different genres of games, board games, card games, video games.
Yeah.
But we often talk about sports as games.
True.
Where we're watching the game, or we've all got a game of Ultimate tomorrow. Just wondering where you think the differentiation between sports and these other kind of games is, if there is one, or if it lines up with your definition of games and the 4 C's and all that.
Right. I think sports do definitely they're part of the like they do fall under the umbrella of games. I guess you all right? The challenge is different. I guess because you're more you're going against another team, not really like the game or like the I don't know, enemies, bots, computer player. Yes.
Great job, Mr. Deluise.
Thank you.
Do you think you'll try to publish this game or make other ones?
This is actually the second board game I've ever made. There was a game that I made with my tutor, Dream Team. It's basically like Monopoly for hockey players, and then you play Pokemon, but simplified, so you kind of score goals and such. It was a great game, and I think I might start publishing board games. I do have a lot of ideas that I keep in a notebook. That's 310 pages, and it's tiny pages. All right, it's called A Fat Little Notebook, by the way, from Hilroy. So yes, I think I might start publishing games. It's a consideration.
Actually, Mr. Deluise, you made another game in grade 6.
That's so true. I made
if you
Race
recall.
Age.
Yes, and that you made it with James.
Yes.
I was actually wondering what you think about that game now.
Right. At the time, I was in grade 6. All right. So I made this game. It's like a 3D board, and it's like along a tiled path. And I thought at the time this game was kind of cool, and I don't think it's as good as Breakaway, but
Well, I can tell you that it was very complex. And
That's
so
true.
when I had a really hard time learning the rules of it.
That's
so
true.
that might be, now that you know what you know, you might be able to revisit a game like that and
Sure.
improve on it. Would be
Make
cool.
it
I have
better.
another question. In my science classes, I use games a lot for
That's true.
review. What do you think about games as a teaching tool?
Right. Well, when it comes to Kahoot, where's the slide? I'm just going to do it. When it comes to Kahoot, I feel like it's a great way to really gamify learning, to kind of teach where is at the very end of the thing. There it is. Kahoot's a great way to teach, and I guess a kind of concept to a classroom when they're trying to competitively get more points and they get I don't know, answer streaks and such. So Kahoot's a great way to kind of make learning fun for students.
Do video games, board games, or sports have the most of depth, complexity, and agency?
Right.
Which one of them has the
Right.
most?
I feel like I think board games have more depth, especially Go, with 361 possibilities for the first turn, and the first turn only, and then amounting after that. When it comes to, I think sports have the most chance, besides Snakes and Ladders, which is solely chance. And video games have the most, what's the other one? Video games, I think, have the most change. They provide different experiences through gameplay, more so than video games or sports, or card games for that matter.
All right, Mr. Deluise, your last question comes from Dr. Ted Spear.
All right, it's the boss battle now, guys.
Oh, goody.
Going in with my flaming sword. I got this.
Mr. Deluise, a couple of observations and one short question. The observations is you've done a very sophisticated conceptual analysis of fun versus enjoyment.
Yes.
And that was very well done.
Thank
You
you.
also did some conceptual work in talking about agency, and you talked about changing game pieces. You actually used that to loop back to your distinction between enjoyable and fun. So there's a lot of actually deep conceptual work in this presentation, which I'm impressed by.
Thank you.
My quick question, I was going to ask you, there's two games. There's a game called Risk, and there's a game called Diplomacy. Do you know Diplomacy?
I don't know about diplomacy, but I know about Risk.
So Risk is a take over the world game.
Yeah.
Diplomacy is a take over the world game, but it's a little darker. because it's got a lot more choices in it, and you can actually sort of lie and cheat on your friends who you're playing with, right?
Right.
And so it's a bit darker. I was going to ask you about chance versus strategy, but what I wanted to ask you is if you were going to make a game, and you have made a game, what percentage do you think is the right percentage of chance? Because you made some interesting comments about chance. Should there be a lot of chance or not very much chance?
So like in my board game, you mean?
Well, in your ideal game, if you were to give
Oh, I see.
someone advice about how much chance you should put in a game, how much chance should you put in?
Right. Well, I guess chance really, it makes it so that, like, even if it doesn't matter if you get, like, I guess a bad hand or a good hand, it, like, pro players can even use the bad hand to do well. And so I guess it definitely shouldn't be, like, lopsided too much. So, like, all chance or all choice. Because that would be boring eventually. I feel like maybe around 67-33 and the percent between choice and chance. So chance on the 33, choice is 67%, so it's kind of 2/3 to 1/3. If that makes sense? Math? Calculus? Sorry.
Mr. Deluise,
Yes.
I want you to know that I've graduated from playing cribbage
Oh, I still beat you that one
to
time.
Texas Hold'em. So, given your study into the history of gaming, can you tell me how I can, based on your learning of the conclusions that you've arrived at, can you tell me how I can improve my chances
Right.
in playing Texas Hold'em?
Right. So I've actually, believe it or not, I've played this game a little bit. I was a little bit not good. But I played a couple times, and I guess the pro player knows when to fold, and that's called giving up, by the way, when you fold it. I don't need these cue cards anymore, by the way. So I guess to get better at Texas Hold'em, really read the opponents, kind of look at their faces. If they're all grouchy, go for it, because they're probably faking. Okay, for real now. Try to read the opponents and see if they have if they might be trying to bluff, and if they have a good hand when they're trying to fake it, or if they have a bad hand when they're trying to be like, oh, I have a really good hand. And if you really don't think you're gonna get it, if you're not gonna get the pot, then fold and take yourself out of it, because you're gonna lose more than you're gonna gain.
Thanks for all your advice, Mr.
Thank
Deluise.
you.
Well done.